I went to art school and I studied painting. In fact, I was particularly interested in art history. And I happened to be at art school in the mid-60s, which was a time when there was a huge convergence between many of the sort of experimental arts. So painters were talking to composers, were talking to architects, were talking to philosophers. And for a period in the 60s, it seemed that there was the possibility of a sort of unified theory of art, if you like. So the sort of bright lights of that period were John Cage and Rauschenberg, Cornelius Cardew, so on, those kinds of artists who, in a way, didn't observe the boundaries of their disciplines and who felt that if you were operating at a sufficiently conceptual level, then all artists could speak to one another. So while I was at art school, I spent 5 years at art school. I spent at least half of my time there working with music, really. And in fact, it was quite natural when I left college that I should join a band, which is, of course, what many English art students do. I always think that England has evolved two great educational ideas. One of them is called Greats, which is what you study if you go to Cambridge or Oxford, where you essentially study the great writers, Homer, Aristotle, Archimedes. You study those great thinkers who put down the big ideas that have dominated our culture for so many thousands of years. That's one way of learning about things. Art schools took another approach. They said it's important to understand the texture of now, the texture of the modern world, the things that are transitory and ephemeral that probably won't be there in 10 years' time. So the art school was a sort of counterbalance to this other form of, this classical form of education. The classical form said, look at the eternal, look at the things that last for a long time. The art school thing in the 60s was more and more, look at the present, look at now, look at what's special about now. And of course, that was the time when we had pop art, which is very much that. Pop art is the idea of taking seriously the fast-moving events of the present time. And so it was very natural to me that would turn into a respect for popular culture, into an understanding that these things that a generation before might have regarded as trivial, like Elvis Presley, suddenly they started to seem not trivial, and they started to seem to carry lots and lots of messages about where we are now.